What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Control Academy. I'm back with yet another video this week. I'm trying to add in a little bit of extra content, spice up the number of types of decks we see on this channel, and hopefully give you an idea of a bunch of different ways that you can approach Standard at this moment. And I'm particularly trying to look into decks that are not the sort of big three or big four that you might see out there. You'll notice that on the channel I've generally tried my best to avoid playing Alrund's Epiphany. Haven't played a straight mono white deck. Haven't played the mono green deck because, you know, it's just, you can see those decks played in a bunch of different places, but I'm trying to diversify what we show here. But that being said, it's getting close to the end of the month. Really hoping to grind up a little bit higher on the ladder than I currently am. And a gentleman on Twitter who had pointed out that he had a deck that both seemed very interesting and did really well in his hands. And so I'd like to give a quick shout out to Edoardo Tedesco for this list. I will put a link to his social media in the description of this video. So he posted about this particular deck that is human tribal. It is predominantly white, and so you'll see a lot of the sort of parts that you're used to seeing from the white aggro decks, but it brings in some stuff that really lets it go over the top. So we've got Intrepid Adversary, Luminarch Aspirant, and Thalia. These are the two drops that are pretty much hallmarks of the format. Thalia kind of sees play here or there depending on what kind of version of the aggro decks you're looking at. But honestly, she's one of my favorite creatures in the entire game. Really love that she's back in Standard, so it's kind of a shame that it's taken me this long to record a video with her in a deck. But here we are. So this particular pile of two drops does a couple things. One, we've got some flexible life-linking attackers that scale really well in the late game. We've got something that puts +1/+1 counters on immediately. This card has been kind of the nightmare of Standard for long enough that I don't really know that I need to elaborate on too much. But the point that it puts counters on is really important because it's a big part of how our sole one-drop creature really helps this deck have a ton of viability, especially against the control decks of the format. So Allenbach Escort is a 1-drop, 1/1 vigilance that you can sacrifice to give an indestructible and lifelink to a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. This reminds me a lot of the dog that was in the last Standard format. This is a lot like the Dauntless Bodyguard, where it's just a fair enough 1-drop that you can use to protect your things. And the caveat of needing to have a +1/+1 counter on things is kind of a pain in the butt, but this deck can dish them out from Luminarch Aspirant. Additionally, we've at the top end also got Halana and Alena partners. These put a ton of +1/+1 counters on the things and are the primary motivating force, in my opinion, in going into the Naya colors for this deck. So for 2 red and a green, you get a 2/3 first striking Reacher, which is already decent enough for Standard, but that combat on your turn, you get to put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is its power. That creature gains haste until end of turn. So unfortunately it can't target itself, but this, you know, even if it just lives long enough to go to a combat, even if it's not attacking that same turn, it can beef up a creature in a big way. And if you put +1/+1 counters on it, from a Luminarch, or if you buff it with Intrepid Adversary, that just scales how much this can really get things out of control. And so being a first striking Reacher is pretty good, and a lot of people forget about the reach side of this card, and so it's really powerful. Moving back to the 3-drop spot, again, a lot of familiar faces here. We got Brutal Cathar, we've got Elite Spellbinder, and these are kind of our hand and board control pieces. We're sticking to a humans theme here for a reason I'll get to in a second, and so that's why we don't have the Skyclave Apparition, but we do get to play Adeline, the Resplendent Cathar. it's a human, it pumps out humans, and it scales incredibly well. And then we've got Reckless Stormseeker, which, at least on the front face, is indeed a human. And this creature is nuts. It is essentially a virtual 3/3 with haste on the turn it comes out, but it can also apply that buff, though, +1/+0 and haste into a different creature. So that's really flexible. And if it does happen to flip, that just gets even bigger and scarier and can give trample to some of your creatures, which is a form of evasion that's really important in this deck that's really trying to stack up onto one creature most of the time. But where this gets a little bit nuts is the last card is Sigarda, where if you happen to have gone wide, which happens a lot in these white decks, is that you've got one really beefy creature and a bunch of little dorks that can't really do anything to get through. Sigarda goes ahead and gives all humans +1/+1, which is good. It's a flample, so it's a 4/4 flying trample for 4. That is enough to go ahead and make any one board we have really, really scary. If you can somehow get it haste from either Halana and Alena or Reckless Stormseeker, it's just nuts. But then if you have Coven, then essentially you get to do a sort of mini collected company here, where you look at the top 5 cards of your library and put a human from among them into play. And that is a really powerful effect in this deck, especially where we've got a bunch of really great ETB effects, a lot of great sort of static taxing effects. And so that is the bulk of the deck. The land base is pretty straightforward. We got flip lands, we got the enter to battlefield tap lands. We're playing 4 Cave of the Frost Dragon as just another way to dish some damage in. And then we've got 2 Snakeskin Veils to respect removal cards from our opponent's deck. I'm playing this best of 1, so there's no sideboard. The fellow who posted the deck, Edoardo, did post a best of 3 sideboard, and so in the description I'll have a link to the sideboard that he proposed for the deck. But given that I'm going to be playing this best of 1, I've just skipped the sideboard. And with that, let's go get some humans on the board and beat some face. See you there. All right. First opponent up is Aggro. Good luck, Osgur. Let's go with that. All right, our opening hand here it's fine. Having double Thalia is kind of a pain in the butt. Would have loved one of these to be a Luminarch Aspirant, but the fact that we've got a decent curve on the play into, if we draw land all the way into Halana and Alena, I'm going to give this a go. Let's see what happens. Play planes and pass. Looks like we've got our opponent doing something similar. Odds are we're going to need a red sooner than green. So let's go ahead and drop a Needleverge Pathway, play out Thalia. And you can play the Cragcrown Pathway on green, and then we're set up to basically play Halana and Alena off of virtually any land we draw. All right, I think we're gonna get to a Halana and Alena. At this point, they haven't seen the greens, so let's not go out of our way to show them. Put this on white, and Brutal Cathar, that Luminarch Aspirant, and get in for 2. This has the potential to get a little crazy. All right. Brutal on the brutal. Fine. All right, and an Adeline is going to make this really nice as well. But right now we're here to Halana and Alena. We're going to smack some face. And this is going to get real fun, because we also have this Intrepid Adversary, which is online to be really scary. I mean, it's nowhere near over, but okay. They're going to get to pick off one of our 2 scary things. But luckily, we have lots of scary things in our hand. And they just scoop it up. Honestly, that one was going to go our way. All right, off to a great start. Let's go on and play another. All right, next opponent up is Megatai. Good luck, Megatai. All right, opponent goes first. As far as opening hands go, this isn't awful. We've got a nice little curve going here, and if we draw another land, we can play basically everything in the hand, so can't feel too bad about that. Yeah, you know what? I've had better hands, but I like this one a lot. I'm going to keep it. Just hope that my opponent's hand is not insanely fast. Send out pass and go. Sulphurous Mire says that this is probably going to be Kalain, Innistrad Predator deck. Yep, there's Kalain. The upside is at least approximately on the curve that they would play the Innistrad Predator. We're going to be able to Brutal Cathar it, so going to be okay, I think. So I've got red, white. We need this for green. Need white, white. All right, I think I put this on white. It's trying to figure out how to play all these crazy multicolor spells is more than I can handle this late at night. What are you doing? Don't you dare. Whatever it is, don't do it. Kalain is such a cool design. You gotta love it. Aha. Okay. $10 says they have Deadly Dispute in their hand. Alright. I do want to hold my Brutal Cathar for when they have an Innistrad Predator. So my option here is Adeline or Allenbach Intrepid. I think I want to sit on this pairing, so I'm going to go with Adeline. And here, my attacks are free functionally, but I don't think it actually works out really in my benefit. I fully expect that they're going to Deadly Dispute this Shambling Ghast regardless, so yeah, they can productively block the token. Yeah, there you go. No Deadly Dispute, but they get to put the -1/-1, and this is probably fine enough from their perspective. Oh well. I mean, that was kind of inevitable in the grand scheme of things, but we still got game. Valky. They have to take the Brutal Cathar, otherwise I'm just okay. Yep, that's right. Do it. It's not particular. Well, I guess because theirs can't flip. So, however, this is interesting. So, play Sigarda. I think what I want to do is I want to play Halana and Alena, and then next turn I can play Sigarda and give Sigarda haste. Alright. And this is basically free, right? Yeah. If they got a removal spell, they got a removal spell. So there's no Planeswalker to attack. That's a fun bug. Alright, so until I can remove Valky, I've got to just start applying pressure wherever I can. Yeah, so transforming Valky into a Brutal Cathar doesn't really do much. It just turns... It was already a 2-2, now it's a... Or it was a 2-1, now it's a 2-2. Big whoop. But it can't flip, because as a copy, it doesn't have a backside. So unfortunately, I don't think this is going to do what our opponent wants it to do. Play this out, because... Yes, please. Give Sigarda that. And then... Let's have a Yabadoo time. Brutal Cathar, yes please. Okay. They paid 3 mana for not even a particularly good chump blocker. And now... I've got up some protection, I've got up 2 Brutal Cathars, and... Okay, so... I want to keep... What do I want to keep? Keep Adeline or Sigarda? Gonna keep Sigarda. Sigarda is like almost lethal as it is, so Intrepid Adversary just pushes it over the top. I guess I could get back Valky, and so then I don't have Intrepid Adversary, but oh well. It was a nice thought anyway, I suppose. Let's put this on white. Brutal. Take Valky, and then Intrepid. I don't have enough mana to do that, so I'm gonna just sit in case they have another Wrath. Gonna put them to 1, and then next turn I've got some ways to deal some extra damage, but I don't see them coming back from this one. Okay, well then that's pretty good. It's about as good as it needs to be, I suppose. They really like taking these Brutal Cathars, which is... I mean, I guess that's valid. Well, I shouldn't be second-guessing. That is the right call, because otherwise I'm just going to snag it, but... I will happily tax that Image Stone Predator. They'll still be able to cast it, but at least it'll be their entire turn. Come down as a 5/5. They are not making this easy, are they? Okay, well that's pretty good. Then, I think I'd pass. If they've got another Blood on the Snow, then they got another Blood on the Snow, unfortunately, but... But I'm going to have 2 flying attackers. Both going to be lethal, so... They're going to have to do something good here. Why do they keep doing that? It doesn't do anything. It does literally nothing. Auto pay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even need to do that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to play with my food there, but yeah, we're good. Victory! Alright, next opponent. Barasink. Good luck, Barasink. Alright, you know what? We've had some weird opening hands this game, but, or this, with this deck, but this is pretty solid. Yeah. I don't have anything to complain about. Keeping this, and we're on the play. I feel like I've been on the play a lot with this deck. It's great. It's a great feeling. Yeah, so now pass and go. I'll drop this Cragcrown on... Oh, actually, no, let's put this on white. And then they're playing red. This is either, almost certainly either is it or another one of those red-black decks. And so the correct answer here is probably Thalia. Find out. Luminarch is tempting, but there's a chance it just eats removal. This is great. This is absolutely great. So you play a Luminarch Aspirant, Allenbach Escort. This goes like that, and now Thalia is protected. Boom. And then next turn, we can bring out the Intrepid Adversary, throw a counter on that. Life is going to be great. Have I mentioned how much I'm enjoying this deck? Oh, and there's so many good options here, too. Oh, I love it. Let's go for another red, if it really matters, but let's go with... Well, could go with Adeline. Let's go with Adeline. It's got a bigger butt, a little bit harder to kill inadvertently. Can throw a counter on it so we can protect it. Not entirely sure what our opponent... They're probably playing the red-green wolves deck, but they're really far behind for wolves. But Adeline's going to be much harder to fight, and if they somehow do, then still protect it. Ill-tempered loner. Okay. Boom. Alright, so I have no idea what our opponent's doing. I guess it's probably a werewolves deck, but I don't think I've ever seen an ill-tempered loner on the board. Halana and Alena is tempting, but given that this is a Boros Reckoner effect, I do need to snag that. And honestly, I haven't done the math, but I think that's actually just enough. Yeah, there we go. GG. All right. Next up is Congrio. Good luck, Congrio. Alright, you know what? This is not an amazing hand. We got double Luminarch Aspirant and the ability to cast basically everything in our hand. I gotta keep it, I think. Cave, Allenbach. Boom. Alright. Let's go mono green. Let's see. What do I want to show them first? I'm going to have to put this on red, I think. So go ahead and put this on green. Luminarch. Counter on itself. And then pass. I was hoping they wouldn't have a 1-drop so I could poke in there, but it's not the end of the world. If you draw another land, this has the potential to get a little nutso. So... here's hoping. Between the Intrepid Adversary and Halana and Alena, we've got some good 4-drops. And in the meantime, dropping another Luminarch. Good stuff. Okay. I don't know what decision is so taxing in mono green on turn 2, but yeah, I could see why that would be a really challenging decision to make. Oh well. Come on, I'll let you have your 2 damage. Just turn it sideways, it's okay. I'm not going to block. Alright. Cragcrown Pathway, Luminarch Aspirant. Next, I put 1 on you, 1 on you. And then if they want to double block and potentially get blown out, so be it. I suspect that an Essig's Chariot is coming, and that's what they were fretting over. Yep, there it is. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm thrilled to see that. I would love to see a land off the top of my deck so that I can really punish the crap out of them, but we're doing okay. That's a land off the top. I don't yet have double white, so we're going to get that. Halana and Alena. Going to make life very scary for our opponent. So, we're going to go ahead and put 2 here. It's not letting me stack. Oh no, actually it is letting me stack the way I want, because I want to put the A counter on Halana and Alena first, because then I get to put an extra counter on the Luminarch. Reality, I probably should have put them both on Halana and Alena, but it's going to be good. And again, they're in a position where if they want to go ahead and wrath themselves, by all means. Now we got a first striker. It's just going to continue to get us value. And then, boom. Next turn, we got Intrepid Adversary after Intrepid Adversary. Like, they need to have a very good answer. Like, they need to have Blizzard Brawl and then Inscription of Abundance in response to my sacrificing all Offenbach Export, Allenbach Escort, whatever the heck it is. Well, that's a whole pile of wolves. Remember back when I said I wasn't particularly scared? Maybe I'll take that back. I'd love a Sigarda off the top. Okay. And they scoop it up. I mean, we had the potential to deal a lot of damage there, so no complaints. All right, so we're back. This deck did pretty well. I'm pretty happy with its performance. It wasn't the sort of, meta-breaking catastrophe that the original pilot had implied it was, but it was darn strong. So where this falls short of mono green, mono white, especially the comparison to mono white is the most apt given the number of cards it shares, is it having to play games with, does it have the right colors of mana? Does it not have the right colors of mana? The curve's a little bit higher, means that those decks sometimes just get underneath it, and that's all there is to it. The flip side of that is that if we can manage to get our colors down, which generally speaking wasn't a huge problem as long as the opening hand was reasonable, this has a heck of a lot better of a late game in that if you can snowball that advantage early on, we went from having, little dorks, Brutal Cathar for removal here, and then wham, Halana and Alena just take over. Sigarda just comes in as just like this factory of value. And, you know, it never felt bad as long as we were playing on curve for all intents and purposes. So I guess what it really comes down to is that because of the curve and the color requirements, there are more poor opening hands for this deck, but there are also a lot of hands that you're just like, wow, this is going to explode. And like all of those little extra bits of damage that are good in the other decks, like the +1/+1 from Intrepid Adversary, are nuts in this deck. You know, because if you put that out there, the first strike on Thalia and you know, even Halana and Alena on the backside of Reckless Stormseeker, that makes that +1/+1 a heck of a lot more valuable. Putting that down on Halana and Alena makes that engine even stronger. You know, overall, pretty darn happy with this. If I had any sort of criticism, it's that I feel like it just needs some more removal than Brutal Cathar. I don't know if it's worth diluting the human plan to put in the Skyclave apparition, but there's also not really a clear way to go the Blizzard Brawl route, and I guess that's just one of the trade-offs you get by going for Naya as opposed to a monocolor deck. And because, you know, any card I would think to what would I cut to make room for, you know, even just more traditional removal like Play with Fire or whatever. And it all just sort of takes away from that sort of explosive finish, which is what you play this over the monocolor decks for. So this is all to say that this plays to a potentially more risky game plan, as all greedy mana bases do, but the upside is there and it is remarkably consistent. And so I had a great time playing this deck tonight, and I will probably play this again, you know, off stream reasonably often, because you know, it was strong and it was a lot of fun for a non-controlling deck, you know. I should also say that, you know, if you saw lines of play that I could have done better, please leave them in the comments below. I am not nearly as well versed in aggro decks as I am controlling decks, and so I am fully willing to admit before you all that if there is a shortcoming, yeah, you probably saw the better line than I did. But you know what? Again, the deck is strong enough where the lines kind of, you know, make themselves clear after a while. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a like. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the video channel. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless.